Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we will be discussing some more questions on critical reasoning, which are generally asked for CAT and other management entrance examinations. We have discussed the basics as well as some advanced level questions on critical reasoning in the previous videos. And in this video, we will be continuing the discussion by talking about some complex questions on critical reasoning so that your skill can be developed in a gradual manner, which will help you in answering the RC questions in the VRC section of CAT and other management entrance examinations. So this is the purpose. If you are a person who's watching this channel for the first time, I would suggest that you go back to the previous videos on critical reasoning and start from the beginning itself so that you get the understanding regarding the basics, and then you come back and watch this video so that your understanding or your comprehension or the development of the skill becomes even finer. So this is the request that I would like to make to people who are watching the channel for the first time. For the others, we will straight away go to the questions. So the techniques as well as the strategies remain the same as we have seen in the previous videos. Only the complexity of the questions may vary. But if you are skillful enough now, the complexity is not going to affect you too much. You would still be able to find the correct answer. Okay, the first question. All right, from the context, you would be able to understand that the passage is talking about the deceptions or the false and misleading information given out by the US government to support its policies and programs, and the press is sometimes criticizing this. So the press is indulging in outbursts of indignation. What is indignation? Indignation means when you are angry because of certain perceived injustice done against you, that is known as indignation. Means you are angry because you feel that somebody has done an injustice against you. So that feeling is called, that anger is called indignation. So the press is having outbursts of indignation, means frequently they are having this anger because they feel that the government is unjustifiably using false or misleading information to support its policies, which the press feel that it is wrong. And then comes the author's argument. The author says that no one endorses needless deception, means nobody is supporting needless deception. Endorsing means supporting. Needless deception means deception or lying for without any purpose. So here, what is the meaning? This second statement is very important. No one endorses needless deception. This is the crux of the argument. Means when the US government is indulging in deception, deception means lying about something is called deception. So when the US government is indulging in deception, it is not needless. There is a purpose behind it. So that is why the author says that no one endorses needless deception. No one is supporting needless deception. Then he goes on to give a analogy. What is an analogy? A comparison. So he cites a particular instance that happened in the past in the history where this kind of deceptions were done by some people for attaining some worthy objectives or for the purpose of attaining some greater achievements. These kind of small deceptions or lies were resorted to by people in the past also. So this example is given to support the author's argument that when US government indulges in deception, it is for the purpose of, it is for some greater purpose. And what is the analogy or comparison given? It is about Christopher Columbus. You know that Christopher Columbus was the Portuguese traveler who traveled from Portugal in search for India, but instead of reaching India, he reached the United States, and that is how America was discovered. So, and America was named the New World by the persons who explored it and reached there. And when Christopher Columbus set sail to find India, what he was doing, he was actually falsifying the records. Logs means the record. Log means a ship's record or a journal where the record regarding the distance traveled, the speed, and all those things, the provisions remaining, all those things are recorded by the captain. That is known as a log. And what Christopher Columbus did, he falsified the log, or he corrected the log so that it showed only less distance traveled than the ship has actually traveled. It means he was recording the distance as lesser than the actual distance traveled by the ship. What was the purpose of this deception? It was for the sake of convincing his sailors that we have not traveled the distance that they were expecting to travel to find India. Because if they feel that they had traveled a lot of distance and still not found India or still not seeing the shore, then they would become restless and finally they will mutiny, because these people are going on an exploration. They don't have the clear idea where they are going, so they were going on the basis of some guess or believing the captain. And if they feel that the sailors are feeling that we have traveled a lot of distance, still we are not in sight of our destination, then they will get restless and ultimately a mutiny will happen. So in order to avoid such mutinies, the captain of the ship falsified the ship's record to show the distance that has been traveled by the ship as less than the actual distance traveled, so that the people, sailors, will become convinced that they have not yet traveled the distance that they were expecting to travel, and they will not mutiny. So this is the and what was the result? What was the result? As a result of which the sailors did not mutiny, and the New World was discovered. So finally, they discovered the New World. They set sail and reached the shore of America, and that is how America was discovered. So, what is the essence of this analogy? The essence is that when you have a higher objective or a worthy objective in your mind, some small deceptions or small lies and all are permitted. So, this is the author's argument. So, the author is quoting this example to show that small lies and deception are justified when it is done for the sake of a higher objective or a worthy objective. And that is why he also supports the US government indulging in false or misleading information when press is having the criticism like this. So this is the argument. Now, what is your question? Your question is to find an assumption that supports the argument. So your question is to find an assumption. What is an assumption? We have seen in the basics that assumption is any unstated fact that supports the stated fact in reaching the argument. That is the assumption. So we have to know the definition of assumption to find the answer here. So an assumption is something that is derived from the facts in the passage which supports the facts in order to reach the conclusion or the argument. That is the assumption. Now option A, government deception of the press is often motivated by worthy objectives. This is very clearly an assumption given by the author, because the author says that Christopher Columbus falsified the records for the sake of a higher objective, that is discovering India. It is different fact that he rediscovered America instead of India, but still it was the higher objective. So when he uses this analogy to support US government, what he is doing, he is also assuming that the government is indulging in deception. It is also motivated by some higher or worthy objective. So this is a very clear assumption that is definitely given by the or assumed by the author. So since it is an assumption, we have to find an assumption that is so we have to find some statement that is not an assumption. So since this is an assumption definitely done by the author, this is not your answer. Then option B, without government deception, popular support for worthwhile government policies and programs might well fade. Fade means decrease. So here the statement means that without the deception done by the government, popular support for the policies might be decreasing. So here from the analogy or the example given, what is the what was the purpose of the deception done by Christopher Columbus? In order to continue to have the support of the sailors in the mission, in attaining the mission. So likewise, what the author is assuming, the author assumes that if a government is not indulging in deception, what will happen? The support of the people for the policies of the government will be reducing. So this again is an assumption made by the author. Our question is to find a statement which is not an assumption. So since this is definitely an assumption, this is not your answer. Option C: attacks on the government by the press are often politically motivated. Here it says that the press is criticizing the government on the basis of their political bias or political motivation. Means the press is against the government or the ruling party. As a result of which they are indulging in these kind of attacks. Is it stated or is it implied here? See, an assumption has to be supported by the facts given in the passage. Is there any fact in the passage that says that the press is politically motivated to attack or criticize the US government? No. The passage only says that the press is having this anger against the government because they feel that the government is using false information to mislead the people. That's all. Whether it is politically motivated means what? The press is against the party that is ruling the government, as a result of which they want to criticize the government. We cannot say that there is no mention of any political bias or prejudice by the press against the US government. So this is not a good assumption. So this is not a good assumption. It could be a likely answer. Keep it in your mind. Option D: deception for deception's sake should not be condoned. Condoned means forgiven. Means a deception for the sake of deception should not be forgiven, or a deception for deception's sake is bad. That is the meaning. So here what is stated here? See the second statement again. No one endorses needless deception. Means when you engage in deception, it is for the purpose of some objective. So when you are doing deception without any need, that is called deception for deception's sake. Without any particular need, that is called deception for deception's sake. So such an deception for deception's sake should not be supported. That is what author says here. Deceptions for deception's sake should not be condoned, means should not be forgiven, means it should not be supported. It should not be condoned means should not be forgiven. Should not be forgiven means should not be supported. So this again is very directly inferred or directly derived from the second statement. So this again is a good assumption. Since we have to find a bad assumption, this is not your answer. Option E: a greater good may sometimes require acceptance of a lesser evil. So this is the lesson that we draw from the example given of Christopher Columbus. When you have a greater objective in your mind, for that a lesser evil has to be accepted. So that is why the author is citing this example for the supporting the US government, because when US government is doing something for the sake of developing its programs and policies and developing the support of the people for its policies and programs, some amount of deception or misleading information is acceptable. So this again is a good assumption. Since it is a good assumption, it is not your answer. So all the options A, B, D and E are good assumptions that are supported by the passage and which leads to our argument. So they cannot be an answer, whereas option C is not at all supported by the passage. We don't have any fact in the passage that says that the press is politically opposed to the ruling party which is forming the government, as a result of which they are attacking the government. That is not at all implied here. So this, as a result of which, this becomes a bad assumption, and we need a bad assumption as our answer. So C should be the answer. I hope this is clear to you now. These kind of questions read very careful analysis, only then you will be able to reach the answer. That is why these questions become a little bit complex. Now we will move to the next question. Again, the next question is based on the same passage. Thus the passage remains the same, the facts, the arguments, everything remains the same. The question is different. Which of the following is a weakness in the historical analogy given in the passage? Means we know the analogy or the comparison that is talked about, which is about Christopher Columbus. So what is the weakness in this comparison? That is what you have to find out. What is the weakness? When the author is citing this example to support his argument, what is the weakness? That is what you have to find out. The options are given. I'll give you some time to read the options and try to get at the correct answer. All right, so our question is to find a weakness in the analogy. So we only have to focus on the example given of the incident that happened when Christopher Columbus was traveling with his crew members to find India. Instead, he reached the Americas, which was known as the New World. So that is the analogy, and what he did, he deliberately reduced the distance traveled by the ship on a daily basis while he recording it in his log. Uh, so when say if the ship had traveled 100 kilometers in one day, he will record in his log that the ship has traveled only 80 or 70 kilometers. So like this, he was reducing the distance so that the sailors, when they will see the log, they will know that they have not traveled the distance they were expecting to travel. So they will patiently keep on sailing till they reach the place of their destination. Otherwise, when they see that they have traveled a long distance than they were expecting to travel, still they are not seeing any land, then they will become restless and ultimately mutiny will happen. So in order to prevent such a mutiny, this kind of deception was done by Christopher Columbus. So that is the analogy. Now, what could be the weakness? Option A, the sailors in Columbus crew never knew that they had been deceived, while government deception is generally uncovered. So the comparison is given between Christopher Columbus and the US government. So just like Columbus did some deception, US government is also doing the deception. But what is the problem? Government's deception is uncovered by the press, whereas in the case of Christopher Columbus case, the deception was not uncovered. The sailors did not know at all that such kind of deception had happened. When will this analogy or comparison becomes effective? When the same thing happens in both the cases. So here this could be a problem because in the case of Christopher Columbus, the deception was not at all revealed to the sailors. What if the deception had been revealed to the sailors? Then if the mutiny did not happen, then you can say that Christopher Columbus deception was effective. But here we don't know what could have happened if the sailors knew about the deception done by Christopher Columbus, whereas in the case of government, deception is generally uncovered by the press. So this makes the comparison a little bit weak because the comparison is not exactly similar in all senses. Yes, government is doing deception. Christopher Columbus also did deception. But government's deception is uncovered by the press. Christopher Columbus' deception was not at all uncovered. So this makes this analogy a little bit weak. So this could be your answer. Keep it in your mind. Option B, a ship's log is a record intended mainly for the use by the captain, while press reports are generally disseminated. Disseminated means spread or circulated for use by the public at large. So it means that when Christopher Columbus is engaging in deception, it is not known by anybody, but when press is where government is engaging in deception, it is known by everybody because press is revealing it to the public. So if this could be, is this a weakness? Can you say that it is a weakness because a ship's log is record intended mainly for the use by the captain? If the ship's log is a record to be used only by the captain, Is there any need for a deception or falsification of the record? Because nobody else is going, if nobody else is going to see it, why should Christopher Columbus take the trouble of changing or altering or falsifying the record? There is no need, right? If it is used only by the captain, there is no need for deception here, while press is generally disseminated for the public. So this is not a good argument or a good statement, because if this is true, a ship's log is a record mainly intended for the use by the captain. There is no need for falsification of the record by Christopher Columbus. As a result of which, this cannot be treated as a weakness, because this statement itself is contradicting each other. Itself. Statement is contradicting itself. Option C, the members of a ship's crew are selected by the captain, while those who work for the press are self-selected. So again, it talks about the employment status of the crew of the ship whom Christopher Columbus was trying to deceive, versus the employment status of the press whom the US government is trying to deceive. So here it says that the crew members are selected by the captain, so he is their boss, whereas in the case of press, the government is not their boss. So will this be a good or a weak argument? Will this make the argument weak or the example weak? No, because if this statement again is correct, if the captain is the boss and the ship's crew members are selected by the captain, what is the implication? Means they are supposed to obey him without questioning him. So if the captain expects that the crew members are supposed to obey him without questioning him, what is the need for a falsification of the record? He should not, need not falsify the records, right? Because he is the boss, and he believes that all the people are, or the crew members are going to obey him blindly without questioning him. He need not fear about a mutiny, so there was no need for falsification of the record. So this again is contradicting itself. So that is why this is a wrong answer. Option D, the crew of a ship is reasonable for the success of a voyage, while the press is not responsible for the make for the use, others make of the use factual information it publishes. It says that the crew members are responsible, equally responsible like the captain. They are responsible for the success of the voyage, means it is not just the captain who is responsible for the success of the voyage. The crew members are also responsible, whereas the press is not responsible for how the information is used by the people, or whatever revelations done by the press regarding the falsifications or the deception done by the governments, they are not responsible for its consequences. So whenever press is revealing the deception done by the government, they are not responsible for the consequences, whereas whenever the crew of a ship is facing the consequences of any deception, they are responsible. So if this is true, what should happen again? If the crew are equally responsible for the success of a voyage, again the problem is that the captain need not do any falsification. There is no question of a falsification, because the crew members are equally responsible like the captain, because the analogy assumes that it is the captain's responsibility to see that the voyage is successful. That is why he is engaging in deception. If the crew members are also responsible for the success, there is no need for a deception. So this again negates the possibility of a deception. So all these three options are actually negating or nullifying the need for a deception, because they say that there is no need for a deception in such cases. And option E, in a democracy, people are expected to participate in the nation's political decision making, while the members of a ship's crew are expected to obey the orders of the captain. What is happening here? So then in the analogy, you only have to focus on the section of the statement which talks about the analogy, because we have to find a weakness in the analogy. So if the members of a crew are expected to obey the orders of the captain, the same logic that is available in BCD, there is no need for any deception, because they are expected to obey the orders. So if they are blindly going to obey the orders, there is no need for the fear of a mutiny by the captain, so no need for any deception. So this again is negating the possibility of a deception. All these options are actually stating that there was no need for a deception in the case of Christopher Columbus. So that is actually not a weakness in the historical analogy. It is actually a statement that says that this analogy is not proper here, whereas this case is actually a weakness in the analogy, where it says that the sailors did not know about the deception, whereas the government as a deception is known by the people. These, where all the other options are negating the need for an analogy, whereas in this option A, the deception is definitely going to be there, but the effect of the deception is cannot be compared with that of the US government's deception, because we don't know what would have been the consequence if the sailors knew about the deception by the captain. So that is why this option is the weakness of the argument, whereas B, C, D, and E are not weaknesses. They are actually questioning the relevance of the analogy. So that is the difference. B, C, D, R, E, and E are questioning the relevance of the analogy, whereas option A is saying that this analogy is not proper here because cannot be used as a comparison with US government. Christopher Columbus and US government engaging in deception cannot be compared with each other because there is a difference in the consequences. So that is why A should be the answer. B, C, D, and E are not the correct answers. I hope this is clear. This is again a very tough question. You need to have it to go through the question as well as the options and do the thinking for some time. Only then you will understand the a reason why the option A is the answer and all others are not correct answers. If possible, try to listen to the explanations once or twice so that you become clear regarding the answer. Now go to the third question. This is a sentence completion question. Again, read it very carefully and then come up with an answer. Forebears means the generations prior to your generation, they are known as the forebears or ancestors, you can say. Who's a lepidopterist? Lepidopterist is a scientist or a person who is studying about butterflies and collecting butterflies. Such persons are known as lepidopterists, or you can say butterfly scientist. All right, so we are talking about a particular species of butterflies known as monarch butterflies. They have a habit of migrating from midwestern United States to Mexico City. So, and it takes a long, since it is a very long distance, one generation of butterflies cannot travel. It takes three generations because the lifespan of a butterfly is only 9 months. So, to travel from Midwest United States to Mexico City, maybe it takes more than 27 months. That is why 3 generations of butterflies are needed to make the journey. And but the surprising thing is that even though the butterfly that has left the Mexico City to travel to USA, it is not the same butterfly. It will be that will be returning to Mexico City. It will be another generation, which is maybe to the third generation of the butterfly that has left the place. But what happens? They have a peculiar habit of returning to the same place or the same trees that their ancestors have left. And scientists are finding that, or scientists are theorizing. Theorizing means they are making a theory that they are coming back to the same trees because they have a homing mechanism like that of homing pigeons, where they have the ability to come back to the same place. This is due to the homing mechanism, which is connected to the Earth's electromagnetic system. So this is the theory, and in order to test this theory, what they are doing, they installed a low voltage transmitter inside the butterfly trees in Mexican forest, from where they originate and go to United States, and they come back. And this voltage transmitter is installed inside the trees from where butterflies are leaving. And but they find that if the butterflies are they are especially attracted to the grow with the transmitter, or especially repelled by it, lepidopterists will have evidence that. So what evidence they will get by the response of the butterflies towards the low voltage electronic transmission emanating from the butterfly trees. That is what you have to find out. So the in order to I have told you before also, when we have a sentence completion question, always understand the logical flow of the passage, then focus on the last 2 sentences. So the previous sentence is saying as a first step in testing these theories. So this is only a hypothesis. Hypothesis means a theory that is not yet proven, a probable theory. So that is why scientists are theorizing. Theorizing means this theory they have stated, and they want to test this theory. So as a first step in testing this theory, they are installing a low voltage transmitter. And if they find that the butterflies are either attracted or repelled by this, they have evidence in proving what? In proving what will be the theory that can be proved as a first step. First step, this is important, as a first step. So what is the initial theory that can be proved by the reaction of butterflies to electricity? That is the question. So monarch butterflies have brains, however minuscule. We are not talking about the brains or the this thing. We are only talking about the electromagnetic system and how butterflies are reacting to electromagnetism. So this is wrong. You don't have to consider it. Monarch butterflies are sensitive to electricity. Good answer, because when they react to low voltage electric transmission, then you can see that they are sensitive to electricity. Good answer, probable answer. Low voltage electricity can affect butterflies whether positively or adversely. Yes, it could either be positive or negative. Why? If the butterflies are either especially attracted or or especially repelled. So there are two possibilities: either the butterflies can be attracted by electricity or repelled by electricity. So they will have the scientists will have evidence regarding the influence or the impact of electricity on butterflies, either positive impact or negative impact. Again, good answer. Option D, monarch butterflies map their routes according to the Earth's electromagnetic fields. So this is the final theory that the scientists want to prove. But we have not yet reached that stage of final theory. So that is why this statement becomes important as a first step in testing this theory. So the first step of it, this is only a high theory that is there in, they are assuming it, they do not have evidence regarding it. So as a first step in testing this theory, they are doing this. And once you have the reaction, what will be the evidence they have? So the evidence is not regarding the mapping of the routes according to the Earth's magnetic field. This is the final theory they want to prove. But the first step is, first they have to prove that monarch butterflies are having some kind of reaction to electricity. Only then they can understand about electromagnetic fields and all. So that is why this is not a good answer, because our task is to fill up the missing sentence here, which is talking about the first step and the evidence to prove the first step. So that is why we have a first step and the evidence that is proving the first step. So this is not the first step, so the evidence will not be concerning the final theory, it will be only about the first step. Option E, monarchs communicate intergenerationally via electromagnetic fields. It means that one generation of butterflies are communicating with the next generation through electromagnetic field. This is not the theory. The theory is that the electromagnetic fields are helping the third generation monarch butterflies to go back to the same place that their ancestors have left. Whereas this option says that the one generation of monarch butterflies are communicating to the next generation of monarch butterflies through electromagnetic fields and telling them that we have lived here, you go back to this place. No, this is not implied in the passage. So that communication from between one generation and next generation is not what is stated. It is the communication or the a homing system that is helping the monarch butterflies to come back to the same place that their ancestors have left. So E is also not a good answer. So you have two probable answers. Monarch butterflies are sensitive to electricity. Option C, low voltage electricity can affect butterflies whether positively or adversely. So when you have two good answers, what is the technique? We have already seen this many times, but people still get trapped in this trick, which is routinely engaged by the question setters of CAT and other exams, where they use this trick to trap the students. So what is the problem here? Go through both the options very minutely, look for any inconsistencies. What is inconsistency? You can see monarch butterflies are sensitive to electricity. Very good answer. There is no inconsistency here. Low voltage electricity can affect butterflies whether positively or adversely. So what is the inconsistency here? If you read carefully, what is inconsistency? Butterflies. Are we talking about all species of butterflies? No, we are talking only about monarch butterflies, which is a particular species of butterfly. So here, this option is generalizing the fact, say, of or generalizing the evidence that we received on behalf of one species of butterflies to say that all species of butterflies have this uh, reaction to electricity. We don't know. We are only talking about monarch butterflies, and our passage is only concerned with monarch butterflies, whereas this option, if you read carefully, it talks about butterflies. Butterflies means all species of butterflies. So this is why this option is wrong. Otherwise, it would look like a better answer than option B, because it talks about either positive reaction or adverse reaction, which is what the passage is also saying. But the problem is affecting butterflies, whereas this option says that they are sensitive to electricity. Sensitivity means it could be either positively or negatively. So that is why this becomes the best answer, not C. So option B is the best answer to this question, not option C. This kind of techniques are generally used, or this kind of tricks are generally used in CAT and other management entrance exams to mislead the candidates and lure them into going for a negative or a wrong answer, affecting your marks. So that is why you need to be careful when you have two good answers. When you identify two good answers, go through the answers very carefully to select the final correct answer. I hope you have found the video to be useful in your prep. If you have found it useful, please like, share and subscribe, and try to maximize my reach by sharing the news about this channel to your friends who are preparing for the exam, so that I get maximum reach. That will motivate me to come up with further videos. Thank you. Bye bye. By the way, one more thing, we have people who have not joined the WhatsApp group. We have a WhatsApp group, the link of which is given in the description below. Please join the WhatsApp group, where we discuss a lot of other useful material that will be helpful in your preparation for rereading, comprehension, para jumbles, para summaries, interview preparation, etc. So I hope people who are watching the channel and not members of the WhatsApp group, please join. Thank you once again. We'll meet later.